Okay, so I got a little critique session here. User ZeldasWaifu sent this in. Follower on stream and social media, and wanted a little critique, and I thought this would be really useful for you guys as well, so I could do this up. Now, his critique was mainly focusing on heads and hands, and the poses that he wanted for it. This is his drawings right now, and he's obviously got no, I said heads and hands and feet. Same shit, right? Same thing, right? So he's looking to try to get sort of an elegant pose in here. One of the big things that I noticed right away was on his torso shape. I think there's just a little bit too much space here, and I think the upper torso in this area needs to be a little bit bigger to match kind of like the bottom a little bit. I think the breast line might be up a little bit too high as well. But the main focus on this was the hands and feet and kind of making it look elegant. So I went ahead and drew a little bit draw over on this just to show you guys a little bit of how I go about posing heads and hands and feet. I swear to God, I'll get this right. So we're gonna look at his real quick, and we're gonna use some of these that I've drawn up as well. Now, one thing I'm gonna kind of show you guys is basics of kind of making like how to figure out where to put the hands and kind of make them a little bit easier on you and more elegant rather than drawing all the fingers out. So in this example, I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. I use a lot of things where I will group fingers together, sort of like a mitt. So we have like the main fingers, and then we'll do like one finger kind of hanging off. It's really, really, really common in a lot of comic art. It just kind of makes things a lot easier. So if we do a little piece above this, right, and we want our hands to kind of be a little bit more elegant, for example. The way I'm kind of drawing hands here is I'll think of the base area as sort of this box shape, but it's not going to be a total box. It's not going to be straight, right? It's not going to be a total square. Like this, we want the palm to curve because all those fingers are going to be at different angles as well. So we kind of want to set that out from the start. These are the finger bones, actually, they're going to go through here, right? So each finger, we know the middle finger is going to be higher, the ring finger is going to be about where the pointer finger is, and the pinky is going to be about there. We want to keep this kind of curve in mind when we set it up. And that's how we're going to give ourselves like a base area for where we put everything else on. This will play out a lot into like the flow of the hand as it goes. I think I have a little example right here where I kind of talked about the angle of this coming down and how it's going to match the angle of the forearm, right? So you notice everything is kind of curvy around that and following that shape. And that's kind of how we get away from just everything being like a box with no flow and no movement to it at all, right? Okay. So just to mess with this, kind of an easy way to do this if you're overwhelmed with hands is group the middle two fingers together, right? And then we can usually throw out the pinky. I usually would throw out the pinky, and I kind of use 2 knuckles instead of 3 because I do more cartoony style. But if we kind of group 2 fingers together, it's going to give it a little bit more elegance. And this isn't totally a way that people might pose in real life, but what this does is it doesn't overload the brain with too much detail. It creates one big shape, right? And then it creates an area of interest like this, and then a slight area of interest like this. It's not giving you all these fingers like you have here, Zelda has here, which is fine, but it's it's almost sometimes too many shapes and too many details, and sometimes that's where your mistakes can also show through as well. Versus this, where it kind of creates a flow. And one thing we have the advantage of, like, say, grouping a couple fingers together, or maybe these three together, is that we continue that flow. You notice how these point this way? Here, this is kind of leading you this way. Here, this is kind of pointing you up. So it's keeping that, like, elegant flow of the arm, right? So that's what we want to look at with those things. Typically, when we draw the hand, the pinky actually might even sit further down. If you look at your own hand, the pinky tends to want to be the one finger that always falls away from the rest of these. So even if we draw, like, the middle two kind of together, right? And I think Ethan Becker has a great video on this where he breaks down different people's styles. That's somebody who I would highly recommend you guys follow. The pinky has a way of wanting to run away. This is really over exaggerated, but just the way that I want you guys to maybe think about it. And notice in your hand, on a day-to-day basis, it tends to be the one finger that kind of drops off. Alright. So, in regards to the flow, one thing to remember too is, like I did right here on this hand, the knuckles don't just go straight down. They don't. And this is kind of why we draw that curve when we set up the palm. This is the knuckles. They go to more of a center point, or the knuckles. The knuckles that have the finger bones kind of go to a center point in your hand almost. It's not totally centered, but it's not going to be straight up and down, right? They don't do this. Like, we'll cross that out. They don't do this. They go into that forearm and those wrist bones, right? So with that in mind, and we know that there's that little top third or so that's like the hinge. I call it the hinge of your hand, and that's where the knuckles actually sit. And then they will go to the middle, right? And we can use that with the pointer finger, middle finger to follow the line of wherever that forearm is going. And then it creates sort of a flow with it, right? So keep those in mind, and everything is kind of energy and flow in your drawings, right? More than it is sometimes with anatomical correctness. Same way with the feet. So one thing we can kind of do is, instead of drawing tubes with stuff, we can kind of make these tubes and kind of get them going into points, almost like triangles, right? So even with this, we can keep in mind that it wants to maybe go up here and tilt a little bit up. This one's kind of pointing down, right? So we want it maybe our foot coming down, and maybe she's more up on her toes, right? Just to keep that energy in it. Now, one thing I have to show you guys when I'm doing the feet drawings is, this is how I kind of think of feet to help out. Is I use sort of this clamp idea right here, where the ankle bone comes down from the shin, and it's kind of like a clamp around where the foot's going to come out. So if you have trouble drawing feet, this is kind of how I do it, right? Out of that, you have this almost like triangle. You guys ever have those building blocks in like preschool and stuff? Those 3D shapes? Think of a clamp that comes down on either side of it and holds it in place. And then we have that back heel. So basically, we have the heel and then the foot. Don't forget this top part up here. A lot of people sometimes will draw the heel and then the foot, and then it's like this, right? there's this top area of that triangle that's really really important, and it actually kind of curves, and it's gonna give you so much volume to that foot area. So don't forget about that, right? On the inside of the foot, we have a little curve in, but just to keep it simple right now, we're going to think about it this way in this 3D volume, right? So here's your side area, here's your clamp on it. These are kind of facing the bottom, right? And we kind of use those to get that foot in. Now on his example, I just drew the foot pointing straight down, but like if we wanted to keep that flow of things, we could actually tilt it up. This is an example. This right here I drew for him is something maybe you guys can try out as well. Just kind of try to keep these simplified shapes and draw the foot from different angles, right? Draw it from the top, draw it from the side, right? Just kind of keep it going from different angles. So that's the big critique on his, I think, is he wanted the character to be holding a Dragon Ball too as well, so that's why we drew this. And the important thing was to have the fingers kind of contour around the circle, the object you're holding. Same thing here. Just keep it simple. Keep your two fingers grouped together if you want to keep it simple. I'm not saying this is the be all end all way, and you should not evolve from this, but it just keeps things really, really, really simple. And then pinky, kind of the pinky hanging out here, and then a lot of times in comics, even the pointer finger will be set a little bit further back out of that as well. So these tend to group together a lot, but the pointer tends to have a little bit more of a back set for whatever reason. A lot of comic artists always use that, and I picked that up from them. And I feel like it just adds a little bit more flow to it, a little bit more visual interest as well, than say doing something like this where they're more uniform, right? We can also have these three grouped together. Just experiment. There's no real hard and fast rules. Art is ultimately what looks good. So try to find your own little style, your own little quirks to add on to stuff. And hopefully this kind of just helps a little bit with those ideas of breaking things down into simple shapes. I know this really helped me with feet drawing was the idea that you just draw that clamp around it, you put that ball on the back, and you put that triangle, and I think of these as like the building block shapes that people had in preschool and stuff. So, right, I think there's like a little tin or something back there. But that's more on the foot and not so much the leg in general, but how the foot reacts. You know, the inside obviously has this curve, and then it kind of goes towards it, right? And we got the shin coming up out of there. So practice those things. Let me know how it helps you guys. And that's a little critique, little draw over on Zelda's piece. Thank you for submitting. It's been a long time since I did critiques. If you guys want things you want critiqued on, feel free to submit those, because I don't know when I'll be streaming next. But I'm still open to try to do these little draw overs for YouTube as well. Still helps a lot of people, and I hope you guys get a lot of information out of it. All right, thank you guys. Everybody have a good night.